Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome into another edition of the Big Man on Campus Betting Podcast. I'm your host, the Big Man on Campus. Hope you're enjoying your day, and what a day it is going to be. A lot to get into, a lot to talk about, and a lot to go over. We'll chat about all of it. MLB, NBA. What else we got? NHL Game 7, all sorts of stuff to get into. We just had another unbelievable finish in the Champions League, and fucking gag me as we have to watch fucking Tottenham in a Champions League final, which, again, against Liverpool, it's going to be quite cool. But, again, I fucking hate Tottenham. So having to watch them is going to be pretty disgusting. But nonetheless, what a comeback. Look, I mean, if you're Ajax, I don't really know how you let that happen. Literally with 5 seconds to go. If that goalie, if that kick goes another way, who knows what happens. Really amazing. I don't know how else to really I don't really know how else to talk about it. Just wild. And look, if you're Ajax, that's you can't allow a hat trick. You can't allow a hat trick in a game like that at home. But look, credit to Pochettino, credit to the lineup. Without Harry Kane, it's going to be a hell of a final. And look, Ajax is a great story and everything, but you want to see the highest level of football. For as great as they've been, they don't have the highest level of football. But nonetheless, it's very good for Dutch football. It's very good for the national team and kind of the overall domestic league. So good for Ajax, good for them to find a way to get in and do some great things. But you can't let that happen. And now we got to watch fucking Tottenham for another week, which is pure sickening. But we get Liverpool. Luckily, it'll be a big English final that we'll all enjoy. Hope you're all having a great day. And I thank you for joining me. A lot to get to in this hour. We will try to get back on the baseball diamond with a couple games. We also get 2 NBA games, one a closeout game. We'll get into that. And Sharks, Colorado Avalanche in Game 7. We'll bring in our guest. It's Ian Cameron. Ian, how you doing today?
Yeah, the world has gone cuckoo when I'm late arriving on the show because I'm watching a soccer match, but that's the way it ends up going. How are you?
Doing well, my friend. Doing well. Good to have you. Our regular Wednesday guest, Ian Cameron. We're excited to talk to him about really everything. It's always good when we have a guest. It's nice to do the show all alone, but again, it's also much nicer when you have a guest. Ian, really want to first get into just kind of last night. Obviously, you're up near Toronto. You live in Hamilton, which isn't far. It's in the area. You are, I believe, a Raptor fan. And, look, I was very vocal last night. How could you not be? That was a disgraceful performance last night. It's a debacle. And, listen, I don't blame anyone else but Brett Brown for all of this. All of this crap, all of this poor play, all of this ineffectiveness, all of this laziness, all of this not caring, not being prepared. All of it has everything to do with the leader of the team in Brett Brown. There's no – last night was a pure representation of what they are with him as a coach. They're underachieving. And, look, if you're – let me ask you, Ian, you're a basketball guy. If you had a guy in Ben Simmons who – just wouldn't shoot the basketball. You have a guy in Joel Embiid who will not get into the paint. If that was Pat Riley, do you think that would continue?
I would think Pat Riley's either going to drill it into Embiid's head that, you got to make an impact if you're going to be out there, or I'm going to find someone else that maybe can make an impact for me in a game where my team's not playing well.
It's just, I mean, it's brutal. It's really pathetic. And, they're not winning this series. They're not winning 2 games. I don't care if the game's tomorrow in Philly. Even if they win, I don't think they can go up to Toronto and win. And, it still doesn't, we still have the same problems that are still being issues. I don't know where to go anymore with them. I'm tired of it. We also have to mask that J.J. Redick did absolutely nothing last night. Tobias Harris again was poor. I just don't really know where to go with it. But we'll move on. We'll get into tonight's action. Ian, how's everything been going for you? Has baseball been good to you?
Well, first of all, in terms of the Sixers situation, Shaq, if you watched the TNT broadcast last night, Shaq just tore into Joel Embiid. I mean, just basically said, you've got to give us something more than that.
Yep.
If you want to put yourself in a spot where you're portrayed as this big superstar player, all I hear about is he's got a left knee issue, he's got a boiler and a stomach virus, he's got a respiratory infection, There are great players in every sport that have overcome those kind of circumstances and adverse health situations and still gone out there and given me a hell of a lot more than Joel Embiid gave me last night. And that's the issue for I still remember Michael Jordan's flu game. Now, we're not putting Embiid and Michael Jordan on the same pedestal here, but I mean, Michael Jordan was sick. He was throwing up before the game, was throwing up after the game. He still has one of the most incredible performances in NBA Finals history against the Utah Jazz in 1997 that night when he was feeling like a bag of shit. So you got to give him all kinds of credit for that. And we're not saying Joel Embiid, go out there, get me 40 points, but you got to get me more than 5 points in the first half of a game. It's 2-2 in a series that's there.
Yeah, but it's not just the fact that he didn't give you anything. It's the fact that he really is kind of, he brings the entire team down with his constant whining, his constant, I'm sick, everything sucks.
It's like a drama. It's become a drama with his little, what's his health status? Is he feeling well? Did he get enough sleep last night? That kind of stuff.
I mean, look, I get it. I mean, but here's my thing, and what I put out on Twitter last night, and it got a reaction. I don't understand how you can continue to be sick for a week straight. You're an NBA basketball player. Again, Ian, when you're an NBA player, not only – and what I always have a thing is with when people want to whine, for instance, about not getting paid as a college athlete. College athletes get more than your regular college student. They get scholarships. They get the ability to live for free. They get constant treatment if something's ailing them. If they're sick, they get IVs. Normal people don't get that stuff. And when you go to the NBA, you go to the MLB, those are the perks you get that we don't get. When you go to dinner, it's paid for by the team. It's like any kind of card you get with your work to cover expenses. The thing on top though that they get that we don't get is they get the best of the best healthcare. So if they're sick, they could literally call someone and in 5 minutes they'll have an IV. They'll have constant ability to get better. I don't understand how a guy on a major basketball team in the NBA in the second round of the playoffs is sick so much. How do you continue to be sick? I don't know about you, Ian, but if I have food poisoning, it lasts 12 hours and then it goes away. I don't understand how this guy continuously is sick for like a week on end. Usually you see a guy sit out, he's got a flu, he's in the next game and he's fine. Why is this guy been sick since game one? It's amazing.
It's hard to fathom. It's because I know for a fact the longest period of time that I've been under the weather due to a flu or a cold or anything like that's been about 3 or 4 days.
But you're not an NBA player,
and I'm not even in great health. I'm a little skinny little runt here, basically.
Sure.
I'm not a guy that's got the kind of girth that can. My immune system's not great, to be honest with you. I'm a small guy. I'm a very frail individual. I'll be honest. I'm the first to admit that. So when I get sick, and the fact that I'm topping out at 3 days, usually when I get a cold or a flu, and here's Joel Embiid, it's lasted as you said, almost a week. It's hard to fathom that, and he's in a much better physical condition than I am. Believe me with that.
And again, he has constant round-the-clock support medically. I mean, he literally can get whatever he wants. If he has an issue, it is fixed. It's really irritating and amazing, really.
What's irritating to me and shocking to me is all I've heard, too, from Embiid and from the Sixers camp. He's had the left knee injury to begin the Brooklyn series when the playoffs started. Then it went to a stomach virus and the boiler issue. Now it's this respiratory infection. He's got all these issues. He looks drained. He looks like a zombie, to be honest with you, coming into the Scotiabank Arena for that game last night. And then on the court, he looks like he's dizzy. Like his eyes are just glazed over. He's looking around with this, it looks like I'm seeing stars. But all of this, you're getting your ass handed to you by 30 points There's 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and Brett Brown still has Joel Embiid out on the court.
Now
What is with that?
He's
What's
a complete
going on
imbecile. And again, it's his rotation as well. I mean, he's been a guy that continues to like JJ Redick will hit a few threes and he'll take him out. Like, why can't guys on this team play more than 30 minutes a game? Can someone explain that to me? Because it's like Brett Brown has to give like guys on the bench. Like, it's the fucking playoffs, Brett. You need to play 45 minutes or more. It's the playoffs. Sorry. I didn't hear Nick Jokic complaining the other night. I didn't hear any of those guys complaining because they went out and fucking win. They go out and fucking – they're competitors. And then they come out the next game. They're not down. They come out and win the next game. These fucking guys can't play more than 30 minutes.
Brett Brown, load management in the playoffs, apparently.
It's brutal. Why can't these guys play? Why is JJ Redick on the bench? And I'm going to tell you another thing. Another thing I have a problem with him is if he's making shots, leave him in the fucking game. But if he's not making shots, he shouldn't be on the court. Because outside of making shots, he's useless as a player. He can't defend. He can't create his own shot. There's nothing he can do as an NBA player other than make shots. And when he's making them, he's really good. And he's awesome, and he helps your team. And you look past the fact that he can't defend. But the fact that he's not making – if he goes 0 for 5 or 0 for 6, I think you got to look somewhere else. That's the time where I say, okay, now I'm going to look elsewhere. It seems like he doesn't understand, like, when he's playing well, leave him in. But when he's not playing well, you take, you don't take him out. Those are my issues with him.
JJ Redick's a very one-dimensional guy. Like, his value to the team is 3-point shots. 3-point shots and only 3-point shots. He's hardly going to rebound. He's hardly going to defend. He's hardly going to try to bump someone in the low post. He's there to shoot the ball.
And if you're going to keep Tobias Harris, he's good as gone. He is gone. You keep one or the other. You don't keep them both. You don't need him at that point. And if he makes $22 million a year, JJ Redick. I mean, for what he's given you, it's. But let's move on.
Here's one last thing I'll say about the Sixers. For those of you, I'll give you one ray of hope if you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan. We have seen the Raptors go through mental blocks in terms of putting away series in the past. That's been the one thing they've had to struggle with. We're going to find out now if all of this increased experience and leadership that's now on this year's group, Gasol, Leonard, Ibaka, Green, go on down the list, is going to be what changes things and makes them, when they have, now that they're up in a series, they're going to have now that killer instinct and that mentality to put it away. We'll see if this is a different Raptors team. But that's your silver lining. If you're a believer still in the Sixers coming back and winning in 7, that's what you're clinging to, that maybe the ghosts of Raptor playoffs past come back once again.
Well, here's one thing I will say, and here's something that they need to do, and then we're going to move on to baseball and NBA. So, Jimmy Butler's not going anywhere. Jimmy Butler will get a deal here. I think he's proven that he needs to be on this team going forward. I mean, he's the only reason they even have 2 wins in this series. I mean, without him, where the hell would this team be? I mean, seriously. I mean, he's been terrific in this series. And I think we've seen – I think he's really shown that he will get a deal here. The question is, Harris, I think, is gone. I think JJ's gone. And you're going to have to go out – and you're going to have to go out and get a backup big at some point. I think these bigs that they have outside of Embiid are not fucking good enough. Think if they had, a Gasol type to back him up, and play the 4 if you need him. That would be huge. They have nobody here. Even somebody that can come off the bench and give you quality minutes. I don't know. I'm not talking about Boban, but like a guy that can score like him, but also can defend as well. He's just too slow. But let's move on here. Let's get into MLB. I gave out the Padres on the show last night. Tough loss for the Pods. They lose late to the New York Mets. Today we had a couple interesting games. What a comeback for the Texas Rangers. Texas beat the Pittsburgh Pirates after a Hunter Pence grand slam to tie it. They then end up scoring 3 in the 9th to win the game at 9-6. A brutal beat for a generally pretty good Pittsburgh bullpen. Ian, let's start out with 6-10. I want to get your opinion. I've been kind of riding the White Sox, and I've really been fading the Indians. I've said it all week on this show. I think betting against them is the way to go. And, I got to tell you, another ridiculous price for the Indians tonight. Shane Bieber, really good pitcher. But here's my concern, Ian, with Shane Bieber. He's coming off a 114-pitch outing in his last game. This Cleveland offense is as bad as it gets. I think we're starting to see kind of the changing of the guard in this AL Central. This team has really kind of pillaged this division because everyone else just stinks. This is a really bad offensive baseball team. And look, is Bieber a good pitcher? Sure, but he's coming off a long outing. Rodrigo Lopez, really outside of last outing, he had 3 real good starts in front of him. Then he kind of got beat up against the Red Sox. But if you're going to give me plus 185 at Bet Online, I'm interested. Again, I'm not betting tons of money on this game, but I think it's worth the shot to get some kind of bet in on the White Sox. I just don't think the Indians are very good.
Well, you're laying 200 with a team that scored 1 run in their last 3 games combined. So that's the proposition you're facing if you want the Indians here in this game. Like, their offense has been absolutely dismal the last 3 games. I mean, 1 run in 3 games not going to get it done, and that's why they're on a little bit of a skid right now. I do like Shane Bieber a lot in terms of a pitcher. He's had a good season, but he's got a lot of his advanced metrics numbers are all pointing towards some regression for this guy. That's a concern. You mentioned the high pitch count in his last game. That's a concern for a guy that's not used to pitching that throwing that many pitches in one particular start. So there's some concerns with Bieber for as well as he's pitched going into this game against the White Sox that he may not have his A game and his A stuff tonight. The problem is with backing the White Sox, and it's why I stayed off it, even though I could only still take Chicago here, is I don't like Ronaldo Lopez at all. He's brutal. If there's going to be one guy that hopefully the Indians lineup gets going against, maybe it's him. But again, we're talking about. Yeah.
Here's my thing. That's kind of what you felt like the last 2 nights with Giolito and Nova. I mean, Giolito and Nova.
Yes, exactly. No, that's a good point.
Yep. And that's my continued issue with the Cleveland Indians. They seem to make everyone look like Nolan Ryan, and that's I guess I just don't agree with the prices. And it's like last night, I didn't love it like I liked it the night before because I was only getting like 115 back on the White Sox, but. I mean, 185. I don't think it's worth the full bet or anything, but just continuing to kind of fade away with Cleveland. I guess they're going to win at some point, and I guess that was kind of what you were expanding on. Good point.
Yeah, I'd be more interested in the over 8.5 in this game because I do think the Indians' bats will come to life. They have to here against Lopez. Lopez has had some struggles in the past with this team. Bieber has regression things written all over him in terms of, he's not going to be able to keep pitching the way he is. He's coming off that extended outing last time out. The White Sox offense is hitting right now, unlike Cleveland, so they should be able to do a little bit of damage. I actually did bet a little over 8.5. I'm just looking at my account now. I do have over 8.5, half unit on that. Didn't take the side, but I do have over 8.5 for a little bit.
Interesting. Ian, before we get to the next game, I just want to quickly remind everyone, make sure you go support our sponsor here. Again, you guys always been very good about that, and I ask you to do it this time. It's betonline.ag. If you're looking for a book, you're looking to switch books, you're looking to kind of get started, maybe leave a local or do something like that, BetOnline has you covered. Betonline.ag. Look, there are a few things when you're a bettor you want to look for. How quick do the lines come out? BetOnline is one of the originators of the line. They come out as early as possible. They put them out quickly. You get them. You can get in and hit overnight lines. I think they come out around 4 o'clock the night before, so it's particularly awesome. They're great with football lines as well as we get closer and closer to the NFL and college seasons. You can deposit and withdraw with Bitcoin. Their customer service is great. And again, they have one of the best rollover programs in the business. Every book has a rollover. It's just that simple. They have one of the lowest, shortest rollovers in the business. I really recommend checking out betonline.ag, one of the best books in the business. And if you use promo code BIGMAN, all one word, you're going to get yourself a 50% deposit bonus, and you're going to support the show. You got to keep the lights on somehow when you do these shows. Make sure you support the sponsor, BetOnline. Because you can, and they're going to do good things for you. They're a book you can respect and recognize, and random things happen, they take care of you. Like on Saturday with the horse race, and kind of giving people their money back. They're very accessible on Twitter. Check out BetOnline now. Use promo code BIGMAN to get yourself a 50% deposit bonus. Ian, let's move to the next game, Mariners and Yankees. This is an interesting game. Really just wanted to point this out. Another loss last night for Seattle. They're now 6-17, Ian, since that 13-2 start. They've really had trouble And look, Loaisiga's pitched very well for the Yankees. You're getting a guy in Kikuchi for the Mariners. Velocity has gone up a little bit. I do know Sharps have come in and got the under on this, and maybe something to get involved with. Josh, you don't do deposit bonus. Well, then you don't have to accept the bonus, Josh. It's simple. But I would still appreciate if you use the promo code and just decline the bonus. It's very simple. Ian, what do you think about? Do you have anything on Mariners Yankees?
Yeah, I've had the over in both of the first two games of this series, and I'm not in any rush to bet under. Kikuchi's in a little bit of a tricky spot. He's never pitched in Yankee Stadium before. He does have a lot of upside. He is coming off a great start for Seattle. But a lefty pitcher in Yankee Stadium. Yankees have hit lefties pretty decently, especially at Yankee Stadium. So this is a little bit of a concerning matchup here for Kikuchi in this matchup. Loaisiga is certainly a guy that I think one of their top pitching prospects in this entire organization right now, the New York Yankees. Certainly a guy with some upside here, but not a guy that you trust to pitch deep into games. The problem with Seattle, and they're on this mammoth over streak on the road. In fact, I think for the entire season, they're 16-5 on the road to the over. And the problem with Seattle is they can hit, but their starting pitching struggled, and their bullpen is pitching a lot of innings lately, and they're struggling. That's a bad combination. And usually when teams go on over streaks like Seattle is, it's because things keep snowballing. Their lineup's hitting, but the bullpen's still exhausted, still not pitching well. And bullpens that have been overused and taxed, they stay overused and taxed. Those problems don't just disappear one day to the next. And that's why a lot of these Seattle games, including last night, we saw it with the Yankee comeback. A lot of late runs in these games in the latter innings because the bullpen is just completely ineffective right now for the Seattle Mariners. So, and negative momentum, yeah, Seattle's got a lot of negative momentum. They started the season 13-2. Since then, 6-17 in their last 23 games. So it's been a brutal stretch for Seattle. A lot of negative momentum going against them. If I'm betting this one, I'm leaning Yankees, and I'm leaning over the total, fading this totals move.
Do me a favor, retweet the show. If you're out on Twitter, favorite as well, like it. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions, feel free to hit the chat. Plenty of people in there saying hello and giving their opinion. We'll get to Sharks Avalanche in a little bit. Our boy Ian Cameron, big hockey guy. We'll also go over both NBA games and really interested in both these games. Two interesting scenarios nonetheless. And again, like I said, retweeting the show is great. It gets it out to your followers. Maybe they don't follow me. So, again, retweet and say hello. Let's move on, Ian. We'll go one or two more here. I'll throw one out here, and then we'll get one from you. One that's interesting, this game between the Angels and Detroit. I think on the surface it's an interesting, ugly game, but I think it's kind of fascinating too. You look at Boyd and Skaggs. Both have been very good. Very good. Matt Boyd is, I believe, leads pitchers and wins above replacement. He's been really a terrific pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. You look at L.A., been a big under team, 6 straight unders for the Angels. You look at on the road, 10 of their 14 road games have gone under the posted total. And one of the reasons the Angels have been such an under team is really been the fact that they can't score runs. They're only hitting .211 on the road. This Detroit team's second worst in the major leagues in runs scored. Just kind of a feeble lineup with not a ton of power. And, you look at Boyd. A lot of his success has just been, he's just kind of added pitches. His velocity's been good. And opponents only hitting .205 against Matt Boyd. Terrific numbers. 2 or 3 years ago, Matt Boyd was a big fade pitcher for me, but he's really come into his own as a bona fide starter in this league. And, one thing that I really looked at in this game, Ian, is you look at Skaggs and you look at some of his splits. He's really good against right-handed hitters. Against left-handed hitters, opponents hitting a .292 lefties against them. You look at this Tiger lineup, though, really no lefties in this lineup. Outside of Harold Castro, there are no bona fide lefties on this Detroit team. I think it's a good matchup for him as well. First 5 under looks pretty good here. Full game under looks pretty good. I'm kind of liking this one to be low. 2 teams that have trouble hitting.
Yeah, that's actually there's not many unders I like. This is probably one I'd look under the total with. Skaggs to me looks like he's got some bet on potential. He looks like he's finally healthy. He's had a lot of issues with that in recent years. You like his last 2 starts. He's allowed just 2 runs in his last 11 innings against KC and Toronto. Not the best lineups ever, but still, he's gotten the job done.
Not a good lineup here either.
Yeah, it's not a good Tigers lineup. 231 against lefties so far this season, batting average wise. That's not great. The Angels, we know the Angels' problem has been left-handed pitching for years. This lineup and this offense has had trouble hitting southpaws, and it's been more of the same so far this season. I mean, the Angels are only hitting 203 as a team against lefties. It's 50 batting average points worse than they hit against righties. So it's been more of the same from the Angels. It's hard to trust them against lefties. And Matt Boyd, a solid lefty at home, especially. Comerica Park he's been able to be surprisingly effective, but particularly at home. When you get him on the road, you get him in hitter-friendly parks, your Bostons, Fenways, and Yankee stadiums, and Coors Field. You get him in places like that, he's going to struggle. But you get him in places where he's in his home ballpark, a little more pitcher-friendly, a little more spacious. He can be fine. And the Angels, again, don't hit lefties very well. I'd actually take the Detroit side, and I have bet the Detroit side here for a half unit, plus 110. Small home underdog price here with Detroit, and it certainly would lean under the total as well. I think both pitchers end up favorable matchups here.
John Fiorito checking in, Tribe -1. No, we went over that game. I like the other side. I have no interest in Cleveland. I mean, if people want to bet them, go ahead. This might be a game where they play well in, but I'm not buying into it. And if it hurts me, it hurts me. I'm not going to try to jump in front of streaks. They're not playing well. They're not hitting. Real quickie, in Boston and Baltimore, interesting game here. Both these offenses have been pretty good lately. Over the last week or so, Boston looking good from the plate, hitting about 280. They're scoring runs all of a sudden, 23 runs. Overs looked good in those games, 5-2 to the over. Chris Sale, as we know, has had some trouble. But I wonder with Chris Sale, as he's starting to look up, he's pitched really well over his last three. I really look at this game from a late game perspective. Both these pitching staffs are not good as a whole. Both bullpens are not good. You look at the Baltimore Orioles, an ERA above 6 as a club in the bullpen, just not good. And I have a feeling, Cashner's going to give some runs up here. I don't know if Boston will give up runs early. I guess your only concern is Sale going really deep into this game. Any opinion on an over here? You're starting to see the over maybe might move up to 9 here. You're starting to see some 115-ish numbers as far as the line's concerned. You look at Bet Online right now, 8.5 -120. I think you might see at some point maybe this move up to 9. Any thoughts on the over?
Early in the season, one of my favorite side and total bets were bet against Chris Sale, bet the over in every start, and it's worked out well for the most part. I'm probably going to hit the brakes on it tonight, though. I mean, Sale, the last couple outings, looks like he's starting to get his shit together. I'm not going to say he's completely back on form just yet, but he's getting a lot closer to being the Chris Sale we know he's kind of capable of being. You look at his last 3 starts against Detroit, he only gave up 2 runs. Against Tampa, he gave up 4 runs in 7 innings, but a lot of that was early in the game. Then he settled down and mowed down the Rays from about the 3rd inning onward. And then in his last start against the White Sox, 6 innings, a shutout ball, 10 strikeouts. So starting to get the swing and miss in his arsenal again is Chris Sale. That's a good sign for him against Baltimore. And if you look at Chris Sale lifetime against Baltimore, he's dominated and owned this team. Only a 2.06 ERA for Chris Sale in his career against Baltimore. So he's completely dominated, completely shut down this Baltimore lineup. That's definitely a concern. I certainly don't trust Cashner. Boston might be able to score some runs here of their own. They won last night 8-5, and maybe you get some damage for the bullpen. What I would do is wait to bet an over. I'd wait, maybe look for an in-game over, wait till the starters clear out, or at least wait till Sale clears out of the game, then maybe look for some shenanigans late in the game. But in terms of the full game over, I'm going to stay away because it looks like Chris Sale slowly starts his form back again.
I got to tell you, I think the Red Sox are going to score 6 or 7 in this game. I think they could put up most of the runs here. I think this kind of looks to me like a 7-2, 8-2 type of game, 6-3, something like that. But yeah, again, I hear you. That's kind of my one knock on this game is Sale is starting to look really good again. One other point on Cleveland, someone's mentioning Bieber's the ace. That might be true, but he's coming off a long outing, 114 pitches. I think he went 7 2/3 in that game. Just like last night with Michael Fyers and the no-hitter, it's generally good to fade that pitcher the next time. So off a good outing, I don't think it's out of the question to fade Bieber here. Ian, let's get a play out of you. What do you like here? Then we'll move on to NBA.
In terms of the baseball, let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, here's one that's very good in terms of a game where I think we'll see a lot of runs in it. Kansas City and Houston. We've got Lopez against Peacock. Lopez is not good for Kansas City. The Houston lineup got shut down last night, 12-2 loss against the Royals. I think the Astros wake up today. Prior to that, they had been crushing the baseball. Lopez is a very hittable pitcher. The Royals have a very, very hittable bullpen behind him. I think it's a bounce back for the Astros offense after they got neutralized a little bit last night in the loss to the Royals. And on the flip side, Brett Peacock is not exactly a guy that's pitched great in recent outings for the Houston Astros. And surprisingly, the Royals are really starting to come alive a little bit offensively. Whit Merrifield's been hitting the ball. Adalberto Mondesi has been really good at the plate recently for the Royals. They've got a bunch of guys in really good form. Hunter Dozier has really been hitting lately for the Royals. The Royals lineup's coming to life here. Peacock's not a guy I trust. He's not a guy you're going to trust to pitch deep in. The Astros bullpen is pretty solid, but they've been worked pretty hard lately in recent games. You see the first two games of this series both went over the total. The total's a reasonable number, 9 for this total here. So we're going to see if we can get some runs with Royals and Astros over 9.
Both teams raking right now. Definitely a good play. Royals 22-14 this year to the over. You also look at against. They played 8 games against AL West opponents. 7 of those 8 have gone over the number. So Houston definitely in a spot here to score some runs against a bad pitcher. This is a bad pitching staff from Kansas City. I like that one. A couple comments here, and then we'll move on to the NBA. What's the highest juice you'd personally play in baseball, big man? 135 probably. I mean, Kate, maybe, if I have to, 140, but I'd have – I don't really generally even go over 130. It's just really not something I'm into doing.
I want to point out something, too, about that Royals game quickly. I mean, people are going to look at it and say, how did the Royals or Astros only score 2 runs last night against the Kansas City Royals in that baseball game? I'll tell you what, when you're down 8-0, and Colin McHugh had nothing for the Astros last night. They were down 8-0 and after the 3rd inning. When you're down that much, you start to give feeble at bats, at the plate. You just want to get the game over with, hey, we're probably not coming back now. Let's get this damn thing over with, get ready for the next game. And you're not as patient at the plate. So it's not so much that Kansas City shut Houston down. I think Houston shut themselves down. They're like, we're down 8-0. We're not coming back here. This game's over. Let's get this thing over with, move on to the next day. So even though they got shut down, it's an eyebrow raiser. Only 2 runs last night against a hittable Kansas City starter. Take it with a grain of salt. They're down 8-0. They're not going to be as patient at the plate. They're kind of rush their at-bats a little bit. That could have something to do with it more than great Kansas City pitching.
Ian, you're going to have some stuff coming out with the CFL season. Is that something you're going to be doing? We have a question on that. Do you have anything coming out on that?
Yes, indeed. That'll be part of my repertoire, as always. We'll be posting free plays on Twitter, premium service releases for subscribers of mine. If you want to get involved with the subscription part of it, you know where to find me. You can DM me on Twitter at Bobano or email me Bobano350, Bobano350 at gmail.com. And we'll get you all set up with that. But I'm looking forward to it. CFL is just a month away.
Ian, every time I have you on, I kind of always want to ask you about this. I kind of quickly mentioned it, talked with you on Twitter about it. We've talked on this show a little bit about the mafia. There is a mob war going on in Canada. It's got to be fascinating to be around. I know last week there was another mob hit in Montreal. Salvatore Scopa was a hit. Scopa is actually the leader of him and his brother of the they're part of the Rizzuto crime family, Ndrangheta, which is a big Italian group. There's a lot of mob stuff going on in Canada. And does that get a lot of news coverage there? Is there that talked about a lot?
It gets a little bit of coverage. It doesn't get a ton of coverage. Like, I'm sure if this was happening in New York, New Jersey,
sure.
in the Northeast U.S., it would be huge news. It would be all over the place.
There was a Gambino boss hit about a month ago in Staten Island, and it was a huge news story. I mean, it was on everything. I mean, everybody was talking about that. I'm fascinated. It's because there's a real war going on up there. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of beefing crews. Buffalo's getting involved. That's interesting that it's not talked about a little bit more. Now in Hamilton, Ian, you live in Hamilton, right, or close to it, right?
Yeah, just a suburb of Hamilton, but you could pretty much say Hamilton. They call this part of Hamilton too,
Now
Dundas.
let me ask you. I was just kind of curious about this. So in Hamilton, I'm guessing you go to the city frequently. Is that safe to say, or?
That's pretty safe to say. Yes, definitely.
Now, do you know where these guys hang out outside, or like a social club? Like is there like a part of town they're in, or?
Yeah, there's definitely some portions downtown that are a little more sketchy in Hamilton. That are a little more ghetto, I guess you could say, or borough, I guess it's got that kind of look to it. You could see them maybe having little meetings with the family or members of the family in places like that. So it's plausible. I could certainly think off the top of my head a few locations where you might be seeing a little family meeting, a different type of family meeting.
Sure. Now, Ian, when I was younger, and I wanted to bring this up to you because I feel like you'd be a good person to ask this. When I was younger, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I lived on a street in South Philly called Watt Street. It's a little block, real small, and I lived in this house, and basically when I left, it was owned by this guy. He ended up selling the house, and for a while it's been filled. People have lived there. But I go on Trulia, which is like the thing we look up as far as rentals and to buy houses and stuff. And what do you know? That house is for rent right now. I got to rent that house, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I lived there when I was younger. Yeah. I have to live there, right?
Yes, I would.
I'm going to see it on Tuesday. It's been totally renovated and fixed, and I have to live there. I mean, I don't know how I don't. I mean, that's
Bruce Springsteen, the ties that bind. How could you pass it up?
Yeah, how do I not live there? Wow, Michael Perez lives right near where that guy was kid. Wow, that's crazy. All right, Ian, let's get into NBA. We got 2 games tonight. One's a closeout game. We got the Milwaukee Bucks at home laying 8.5 here against the Boston Celtics at BetOnline. Current total 220.5. Look, Ian, I've talked about it time and time again ad nauseum. After game 1, I didn't think Boston would win another game. And I don't think they're going to win this game. I also think that Milwaukee's going to cover here. The only concern I have with Milwaukee is they're not really and haven't really been in this situation as a team. Do they take the foot off the gas a little bit? But I also have to think that at some point in the fourth quarter, you got to figure Boston will just quit, right? I mean, if this is an 11-point game with 5 minutes to go, 4 minutes to go, I mean, I guess you don't quit just because you're facing elimination, but you have to figure at some point the air is going to come out of the Boston Celtics here on the road. You look at the last 3 games for the Celtics, they're giving up 120 points a game. And you also look at Brad Stevens in his career, 1-5 against the spread in games 5 through 7 in the playoffs. So he has not been good in these kind of games. I just don't think Milwaukee's a very good matchup for the Celtics. I thought it was laughable that people thought that because Marcus Smart came back, that was going to fix anything. The problem that the Celtics have also had is they haven't really shot the ball particularly well. Last 3 games, they've shot 40% or worse in 2 of those games. And I think in the one game they didn't, they shot like 43%. They're not good on either side of the basketball right now. This series is over. What do you think, Ian?
Oh, yeah, there we go. You know what? I've lost a couple of bets with Boston, game 2 and game 3. Game 4 didn't really get much involved, but I'm pretty much done with Boston now. It would be a Milwaukee or pass spot for me. I did bet the total in this game, and I'm on the over like a bunch of people are because this total open 218. It's all the way up to 220.5 here. I think Boston's going to shoot a little bit better, big man, in this game. They have to. They can't shoot much worse than they did the last couple games in Boston. We know Kyrie Irving struggles from the floor. Have been not very good the last couple games. He signed up to be the man for the Boston Celtics, the go-to guy, and he's not really lived up to that here in this series. And from a Boston standpoint, we talk about Brad Stevens, this coaching wizard, hasn't had a defensive answer for anything Milwaukee's tried to do in this series. He's had no defensive answer for Giannis. He's had no defensive answer for Chris Middleton. He's had no defensive answer even for a guy like Pat Connaughton, who shredded them in this series, former Notre Dame product. So right now, you're waiting for Boston to make the defensive adjustments. Well, maybe they just don't have the personnel At some point, you've seen multiple games where the defense can't get stops. It's not about adjustments or not making the right adjustments. You don't have the personnel to execute defense against a team like Milwaukee. So it's becoming crystal clear to me that's the issue with the Celtics. It's the personnel can't match up with this Bucks team. So Milwaukee's going to shoot. Milwaukee's going to score a bunch of points. They have all series long. I think they do so again tonight. But at the same time, Boston, I think, is going to score the ball a little bit better. Maybe Milwaukee relaxes ever so slightly on defense with a 3-1 lead. And let's not forget, as long as Boston's within, that 5, 6, 7, 8-point margin with 5 minutes or so to go, they're going to keep playing. They're going to keep firing. They could foul late. I don't think they're going to stop Milwaukee, and I do think Boston's going to shoot better. The totals come down just a bit from the game 4 total because that game stayed under. Now there's value to look the other way, a zigzag theory kind of thing with the total here. So I like the over. I bet it at 218.5. There's still a little value now, 220.5. Not quite as good, but I still think the over is a good way to go.
Maybe like 119, 107. That's where I kind of see this game.
Yeah.
I think this one will kind of be finished out here. Not a game I'll be betting personally, but I do think the Bucks get the job done. A question I have. I know this is kind of off the beaten path, but we mentioned the Ajax-Tottenham game. There's a video going around of Steve Nash, who works for the Bleacher Report. He does soccer coverage there. He's crying after the Tottenham game. What was that all about? What is he, a sporter? What is he crying about with Tottenham?
That's a good question. I guess
beautiful that he just loves the pageantry. Like, what does he want? What's he crying about? I'm a big Steve Nash guy, but what's that all about? Is he a supporter or what?
That's a good question because they just showed it on the channel that I've got on, and it says Sportsnet in Canada, and they just showed that clip too, where he's like all emotional after that match. And of course, I've got the sound down, so I couldn't hear exactly why that was. But they showed the same clip, and I'm like, what's Steve Nash all emotional and teary-eyed about there with that Tottenham match? Well,
yeah, what is that all about? I
guess that to me too.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Listen to this, Ian. Here we go. I got an answer. Okay. Nash, whose father was born in Tottenham, is a lifelong Tottenham supporter and has expressed interest in owning a minority stake. Okay. Well, there you go. So,
okay. So that makes sense. Tottenham. Yeah.
Big Tottenham.
Dad. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I guess if your dad grew up in Tottenham, he would probably brush off on you. That makes sense. Okay. So
is this a boring and dull and drabby UEFA final now that it's a Tottenham Liverpool
in
the final, or is it like would it have been a better story if Ajax is in it, or a better match with Tottenham in it?
I said before you came on, I actually was happy Ajax isn't in the final. I don't think they're as good as some of these teams. They've had a great run, but I still I think Tottenham Liverpool would be great. I mean, both one from London, one from Liverpool. I think it's going to be awesome. In a neutral, they don't like each other. I think it's great. I think it's pretty cool, to be honest. But there you go. So a definite connection to Tottenham. So there you go. I was wondering why he did that. All right, let's get to the next game here. Thank you, KD. KD says, great show. You and Babana really bringing it. Like the diversity.
Thank you very much, KD. Way to go. Thanks for the comment.
Well, I've always told Ian Cameron he can come on the show whenever he wants, but he's always busy. So, he's a busy guy.
Yeah, you never know. Once June rolls around, July, might be able to squeeze in another day each week. We'll see.
Who would have thought
Wednesdays?
Who would have thought Ian Cameron would be so busy? I'm amazed. It would have definitely been better if Ajax qualified instead of Tottenham. That's absolutely stupid. That opinion. What's great about that, Dennis? I mean, why would I rather see Ajax than Tottenham? Yeah, I'd rather see I'd rather see Delete over Harry Kane or Tagliafico over Dele Alli. Okay, I got you.
I'll tell you, someone we know well. He's a big soccer fan, and he's been watching our shows and been involved with us a lot in the past. Giorgio Migliaccio. Oh, yeah. You would have thought this guy hates Ajax with a passion. He's always talking them down, and they're just a bunch of imposters and phonies, and they're not that good. And
I'm not going to go that far, but yeah. I think they're second class as far as like these teams. It was kind of like a couple years ago. Monaco had made a run, and like Atletico Madrid makes runs. While they're great football clubs, they're just certain clubs I don't want to see in the final. And I want to see Juventus, Man City, Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and I think Tottenham's part of that group now. So, and the fact that it's two English teams makes it just better. All right, Ian, let's get to the big one: Warriors and Rockets. By the way, Ian, who do you support in EPL? Do you support anyone?
Oh no, I don't have a fan. I don't even watch it all that much. But no, I can't say I'm a fan of anybody.
Okay, gotcha. Warriors and Rockets. Warriors laying 6 here. Your total at betonline.ag is 220.5. There is an interesting kind of point in this game that I want to make people known. You're starting to see 115s pop up around there. You're starting to see this creep up. Will this go to 6.5, which is kind of an interesting number? Will this keep moving up? This is an interesting game because, and Ian, I'll ask you, if you're looking at this game, you would have to agree that with recency bias, you have to think that the public's as usual on Golden State, that they're not, they're back at home, they're not going to play bad, but they have real issues to me that I think are bigger than this series. I mean, you look at, they've only lost back-to-back games in the playoffs. I was surprised that it was 6 times. I thought it was less than that. They are very good the next game generally, but I think for the first time in years, really, Golden State has cracks. I mean, they have no bench whatsoever. I mean, I don't want to see Livingston. I don't want to see any of these guys. Klay Thompson's looked labored a little bit. Iguodala had a hyperextended knee issue in the last game. How healthy is he going to be in this game? We've seen some of these guys in that, or even hurt a little bit. Add to the fact that the season, the length of the season, and now you're hurt. These guys have really been hampered by some of these injuries. I just really like what Houston's done. I think Eric Gordon's been huge for them. I love the fact that they can go deep. Austin Rivers doesn't miss, it seems like. All these guys continue to add a lot. Gerald Green and Iman Shumpert and all these different guys. If you're going to give me 6 points, again, last night it didn't work out. This could be a great game for the Golden State Warriors. Just kind of point out to everyone, hey, we're Golden State here. What do you like here, Ian?
This series is interesting because we're basically a half point away and 2 Kevin Durant free throws in game number 2 away from Houston being 4-0 against the spread in this series. What does that tell me? It tells me that this series, there's been a pricing problem. There's been a value problem from the beginning of this series. And the value problem has been Golden State's been overvalued from day one. And I've been on Houston a bunch already in this series. I took him in game 1. I didn't deserve to win in game 2, and that's the one they didn't cover. I mean, it was the craziness at the end that got them as close as they did. But then game 3 and game 4, they responded with the straight-up victories in both of those games to tie up the series. And I know this is the Golden State spot. Golden State, if you look at all the trend guys on Twitter and elsewhere, they love Golden State because Golden State off back-to-back straight-up losses in the playoffs is something like 75% ATS. And I understand that. And this is supposed to be a Golden State spot based on that. And that's true. Golden State gets the last game. Golden State, in terms of their team collectively, it wasn't a great game for Curry. It wasn't a great game for Thompson. It wasn't a great game for Green. There was a lot of guys off the mark when it comes to their performance that night. So maybe that gives Golden State backers belief that, hey, if those guys are all hitting their shots and playing a lot better, which is reasonable to assume tonight in game 5, they should win and they should probably cover. I'm going to take the other side of that angle, though. To me, Golden State has not looked at any point like they're capable of winning by margin against this Houston team. Houston has been, to me, this is the best defensive team Houston's thrown at Golden State in recent years. They've played Golden State consistently tough all season. There hasn't been much to just give you that confidence, Jeff, that Golden State is more than 6 points better right now than Houston. There's not. So I understand that belief and that sentiment. Back-to-back playoff losses, now returning home. This is Golden State rolling tonight. Not so fast. I like Houston here, +6.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you hit it right on the head. That was kind of my sentiment. I'm starting to kind of believe that I don't think Golden State's going to win this title this year. I think it's going to be someone else. And just with all the problems, Stephen Curry, had a great game last time. He played pretty well, but, I just don't know if the rest of this team is is over good enough, which is interesting.
And for those of you that say that Houston can't win in Golden State, maybe that's true because obviously home teams won every game here. If not for turnovers and bad shot selection at critical times, Houston could have won Game 1 in Golden State. That game was right there for Houston to win that first game of this series. And unfortunately, they just made a couple bad possessions in the last minute or so of that game, or else that could have been a Houston victory in Game 1. So Houston has shown to hang tough at Oracle. And if you're backing Golden State at home, not only in these playoffs, but going back into the regular season this year, you're not doing so well. This has not been the home favorite role has not been good to Golden State this year, not even close to as good as it's been at times in the past in the Steph Curry, Steve Kerr era. That's a concern. They've been an overvalued commodity consistently at Oracle. I think they might be one more time tonight.
One more game tonight, Ian. We got the NHL. We got another Game 7. Let me ask you, how sick are you of hearing Gloria? Because I am.
Yeah. I love the story, but I've heard the story now 80 million times.
Yeah, by the way.
I don't need to hear it an 80 million in a first time.
I will say this about that song. How come no one tells the story? Without South Philly, they don't get to the fucking West Conference Finals. It's that simple.
Yeah, exactly.
That
song has fueled the energy and adrenaline they've needed to get past Winnipeg and Dallas here in the first two rounds.
I am sick of hearing this song, though. I mean, it's definitely been old. All right, Ian, we got the San Jose Sharks and the Colorado Avalanche. And, Ian, I don't know if you remember this, but I want to bring it up to you, and I can show you the proof if you want. I remember – I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember when I reached out to you before the season started and I asked you I asked you who would you take to win the NHL Stanley Cup? Do you remember that, Hall-fan?
I do, yes.
Okay,
I did give you the Islanders as a crazy long shot in Arizona.
No, the thing was, I bet the Islanders as I wanted to. And I remember asking you, what do you think of I think I said, what do you think of the Sharks? Or maybe you mentioned the Sharks. And I was on my local the other day, and I saw that I did bet the Sharks 12-1 to win the Stanley Cup. And I think I kind of just always loved their logo and that kind of shit. But you look at this game tonight, San Jose. Actually, one of the best prices on San Jose is at Bet Online, minus 139. Totals at 5.5. Grubauer against Martin Jones. I mean, what do you like here, Ian?
Well, it didn't go well from a side perspective, Game 7 last night. We took Dallas, and of course, really, I have no beef, so you're going to say I'm upset that I lost that bet? Not a chance. I mean, St. Louis was the better team. They were all over Dallas. Ben Bishop's the only –
Was that true, Ian, that they had double the shots?
They did. I mean, they dominated the game at 5-on-5 even strength. It looked like Dallas was skating in mud and quicksand the whole night. St. Louis was winning all the puck battles, the one-on-one races. They were winning those 50-50 battles for loose pucks, and that's what wins Game 7s, and they were winning all of them last night in Game 7. But so now the road team is 1-2 in Game 7s. The only road team to win a Game 7 in this year's playoffs was Carolina beating Washington in Game 7 in the first round. I think this road team could do it tonight, though. I picked Colorado in 6 or 7. I think it's 7. I said before the series started. I can't go back on that. I don't flip flop unless I've got a real strong reason to flip flop, and I haven't seen it yet. This has been a close series. It's been up for grabs. San Jose's had moments where they've looked better, like the better team. Colorado's had moments where they've looked like the better team. Nathan MacKinnon. The fact he didn't play great at all, in my opinion, in Game 6 at home, and Colorado still won that game in overtime. That is, I think, something that's a little bit positive for Colorado because you got to think he's got to play better and step up here in Game 7, do or die. And the fact that Colorado won that game in overtime, too, a little adrenaline and a little momentum going into this game. Sometimes when you're that close to ending a series and you don't, like San Jose was the other night, losing in overtime, it can come back and bite you a little bit in Game 7. Maybe San Jose is one of those teams that's just, they're due to have a big-time run here. They got the break of a lifetime in the Vegas series with the 5-minute major penalty that allowed them to come back and beat the Golden Knights in Game 7 of that first-round series. But I'm not going to sell Colorado short here. I think Colorado has got a great chance here. I'm going to have to see Martin Jones step up in a big-time Game 7 again. Let's not forget Vegas was up 3-0 in that game, and Martin Jones was pedestrian before that penalty to Eakin completely changed that hockey game. San Jose was going home, and Martin Jones was nothing special in that game. So he's got to show me he can do that again and be good in a Game 7 spot. I'm going to take Colorado here. Again, I liked them before the series. I'm not going to I'm not going to chicken out on it now. I'm going to go Colorado at the plus price. And also in these elimination games, it's profitable to the over because the team that's down in the game in the third period has to pull the goalie. You didn't get it last night because it was 1-1 the whole way. But as long as someone's up 2-1 or 3-1 or 3-2 in the third period, you got a great chance when the total's sitting at 5.5 to get those empty net goals or those late scoring shenanigans to cash your ticket. So I'm on the over as well. I like the third period over, something to consider betting after the second intermission. You might get a better price on it, but yeah, over in the game, and going to take a chance with Colorado. We're going to ride or die with the Avalanche tonight.
I think you're onto something here, Ian. I couldn't agree more. I think they're going to get the job done as well. I like the goalkeeper they have. I don't trust Martin Jones either. I think we started to see that. And Ian, before we kind of wrap up the show, this kind of relates to Colorado, and I wanted to bring this up. I try to look. I know no one from this area watches my show, most likely, and no one will probably really hear this other than the people that we have in here right now. But I wanted to shout out this person who, stuff like this kind of makes you cry. You want to be emotional because it's very light, selfless, really. But this kid that in this school shooting, that the one kid that died, he died when he lunged at the shooter, giving his other students a chance to hide and subdue the shooter. He was an only child. And he basically selflessly jumped in front of the shooter. They talk about him being, very smart. He was a good student. He was a good kid. And, I don't have kids. I know you don't have any kids. And I don't know what it's like to lose a child. But I would take one piece of solace in knowing that if my child does die or anyone that I love dies, that they did it in heroic nature. A lot of people will, after a while, just kind of forget the heroic thing that they did and just kind of take it for granted. And, oh, well, as long as it's not me, I'm not getting involved with something that I shouldn't. This kid, I think is a hero, and he's a person that I think should get every medal of honor you could ask. His family should be rewarded for the rest of their lives for raising a kid of that stature. You are who your parents are. I've always said that. I think if you have a good group of family around you. Now, I'm not saying that every kid that has a good family grows up to be the most successful, great person on earth, but you're generally going to have a good go of it if you are raised the right way. And I don't want to cry just because I don't cry. I don't want to cry publicly, but this really chokes me up, something like this. I'm blown away at the selflessness of this person, this kid.
It's a brave, noble, strong, just completely and utterly, as you said, selfless act to try to do something for someone else. It's harrowing. It really is, and it makes you think about stuff like that when about things in life that what's most important to you. It's got to be the people you love the most at the end of the day.
I mean, you look at the family. They had no other kids. He was their only child. Just brutal. But again, I think once the grieving process is over, you'll look back and say, we at least had a hero. He was a hero.
Sure was.
Pretty awesome. And I'm sure they'll honor this kid tonight and all those kids. Look, we talked slightly yesterday about all this. Unfortunately, I just don't think there's a way to stop this. I think everything that happens on the earth, it goes back to just our inability to be nice to other people. Look, I can't say I'm the nicest person. I've had run-ins with people. I've belittled people. I've gotten on people. I'm mean to people. But I think at the end of the day, I think if you don't learn from it, look, I apologize to anyone that I've ever been mean to. I have certain reasons to be mean to certain people, but you look at a lot of the problems that we have as a society, a lot of it just goes back to being nice to people, instead of, when you were in high school, Ian, there were people that were bullied. I remember kids that were bullied, to this day. I mean, I've been bullied. I mean, there are certain people that are just mean individuals. They're just they like seeing other people upset, and we're really in a society now where bullying is huge. Whether it's in a school or on the internet, I mean, you can be whoever you want on the internet, and I would just raise my kid in one way of saying, you got to be nice to everybody. Not everyone's going to believe what you believe. Not everyone's going to look like you. Not everyone's going to act like you. People are going to come from different backgrounds. I always try to be nice to every kid that I was around. And I'm not saying that just because I'm nice to people, it means that they're not going to hurt me if they wanted to. But I'm not sure how you prevent something like this. I just would tell anyone that I had as a child to just be nice to everybody. But really sad that this is what we are as American society. It's every few weeks you hear about something like this. All right. Well, on that note, I don't mean to end this in a macabre way, but we will wrap up the show. Ian, really good breakdown on Colorado. I think you kind of painted the right picture there. And look, you're getting some plus money back, which is always nice. You look at the plus money price on the Avalanche. I mean, you get a few dollars back, which is always great. Publix on San Jose here. Faulty goalkeeping is always a troublesome. All right, Ian, let's kind of wrap it up. As always, thanks for coming on. So you like the Avalanche. What else do you kind of lean on tonight?
Yeah, MLB, we like Kansas City, Houston,
Yep.
over 9. We like Toronto, Minnesota, over 8.5. 2 suspect arms. Gibson's been pummeled at Rogers Center over the years. Thornton's not very good, in my opinion, for the Jays, so you should see runs there as well. It's Detroit Tigers, a small underdog price at home against the Angels. NBA, we like Boston, Milwaukee over the total. Houston +6. And in NHL, as you mentioned, Colorado plus $1.25 and the over 5.5. So there you go.
Great work, Ian, Cameron. Good stuff. Always enjoy talking to you. What do you got going on tonight? I know you're beyond Morency's. Is that true?
That's right, Morency, every Wednesday night on Patreon. So the Wednesday night tradition continues. You're right.
Very good. Go check out Ian Cameron on Twitter at Babana. Go check out what he's doing. He's got the Patreon. He's doing good work with all the hockey guys. Really, I don't really know of any other hockey content personally out there. So make sure you go check all that out and everything that Ian Cameron does. Ian, thanks for coming on today. And guys, appreciate you watching. As always, we'll be back Thursday with another edition of the Big Man on Campus podcast. Make sure you view and take a look at everything we have going on. It's summer. Again, I know there are people that are doing their own thing, and everyone will be back for football. But, we try to keep money in your pockets all the time. Make sure you subscribe to everything we have going on. Thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.